Now we will discuss children versus adult in second language learning and also the role of the critical period hypothesis. So we will look at the role of critical period hypothesis in developing our understanding of how children acquire language and how adults acquire language, especially the second language. We have again some researches conducted to show or look at the differences that these two human groups have in terms of acquiring a language. We have Sparta and et al., or you can say Sparta and the colleagues. They have proposed that childhood is basically a golden age for creating simultaneous bilingual children. Why is that so? It is primarily because of flexibility. What type of flexibility? Mental flexibility. They believe that children have muscular plasticity, which actually allows them to develop the native-like proficiency or accent. So this muscular plasticity gives children an edge over adult, because adult, when they acquire language after the age of puberty, their second language will not sort of have a native-like proficiency. Researchers have developed consensus on the fact that yes, children have the edge over adults with regard to the development of native-like proficiency, but it does not mean that adults cannot acquire second language after the age of puberty. They can. And with regard to native-like accent, this is again something which is debatable. We have both views. Certain researchers, they claim that adults do not or cannot have native-like pronunciation, but due to the emergence of talking dictionaries and correct online pronunciation guidelines and software being available, non-native speaker of any language can still acquire certain amount of proficiency with the help of the advancement of technologies in this area. Now we will again look at these two different types in detail and see that can we compare the acquisition processes of children and adult in the understanding of second language. So let's find out. Researchers believe that it is in one sense illogical to compare the first language acquisition of child with the second language acquisition of adult. Especially Foster and Scoville believe that. This involves trying to draw analogies not only between first and second language learning situations, but also between children and adults. It is much more logical to compare first and second language learning in children or to compare second language learning in children and adults. Nevertheless, child first language acquisition and adult second language acquisition are common and important categories of acquisition to compare. So we have a figure in front of us where you can see the type of comparison you can have. C stands for child, A stands for adult. This is 1 is the first language and 2 is the second language. Now if you look at the figure, you will see this is child first language and child second language. First and second language acquisition in children holding age constant. Then you have child second language and adult second language holding second language constant. Then we have child first language and adult second language, which means first language acquisition in children and second language acquisition in adult. Now as we see first and second language acquisition in children, which is C1, C2, holding age constant. Second language acquisition in children and adult, C2, A2, holding second language constant. And third, which is first language acquisition in children and second language acquisition in adult, we will look at how they can be compared. It is important to remember that 2-year-old and 11-year-old exhibit vast cognitive, affective, and physical differences, and that comparison of all three types must be treated with caution when varying ages of children are being considered. In C2A2 comparison, one is holding language constant and manipulating the difference between children and adult. The third comparison, which is C1A2, unfortunately manipulates both variables. Many of the traditional comparisons were of this type. However, such comparisons must be made only with extreme caution because of the enormous cognitive, affective, and physical differences between children and adults. Now, this is important that when we are looking at these comparisons, we should not forget the critical period hypothesis, which has been proposed by research, and especially the work of Eric Lenneberg. They made strong statements in favor of critical period before which and after which certain abilities do not develop. So basically the idea is that there is such a biological timetable which starts from 2 years to 13 or sometimes 15 years. SLA occurs around puberty, beyond which people seem to be relatively incapable of acquiring second language. So if we have to look at the comparison of child first language and second language, adults first language and second language, this hypothesis provides key factors and understanding with regard to such comparison. To sum up, studies on children versus adult in second language learning show that acquiring a first language is easy, but learners face difficulty in second language learning and sometimes face failure in attaining native-like proficiency as per critical period hypothesis.